Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we'll be looking at the patch notes of patch 3.0 for Wild Rift. Finally, a new year, a new number, very exciting stuff. Let's get straight into it. So here we are, patch 3.0. Happy New Year, friends. Welcome to patch 3.0, the first patch of the year. We have some exciting things coming to Wild Rift this year we can't wait to share with you. Some were announced recently. Check out a few of these announcements in the season start 2022 video here. We are cautiously reintroducing a test version of voice. I'm sure a lot of you are very happy about that. Personally, I don't really get it, but if you like the in-game voice, it's cool. Set is coming. Firecracker skins are on the way. Lunar New Year. Guild v Guild Season 2. Pretty exciting stuff. Honestly, I think people maybe won't be disappointed, but maybe you're expecting a lot from this patch, mainly because it's now 3.0. I think you have to look at the 3 as the fact that it's a new year, so they're changing the like the directory value, right? Instead of it being patch 2, because it was last year, it's now patch 3 because it's 2022. So I think this patch, it's not super dynamic, it's not super drastic. Having gone through it, but I think, you know, more stuff like the Elemental Rift, which they said is probably coming in 3.1. These would be the bigger patches, I think, that would, you know, probably have made maybe more sense to most people to like be a new like number start. But yeah, at least in this case, I would say 3.0 isn't super drastic, so I don't expect to get your minds too blown. I've got new champions coming. Set the Boss, he's coming on January the 26th. If you're not familiar with Set for PC, he's kind of, I don't know if I'd really call him a tank or a bruiser. I guess it's kind of a mixture of both. His passive is that he kind of alternates his fist attacks. He's got like a punching kind of vibe. Just beats people up. He has like a pull where he pulls from both sides of him, and then if he grabs someone on either side, it'll stun them both. He has an ability called Haymaker. Basically, every time he takes damage, he stores it as a resource, and then he can use Haymaker to turn all that damage he's taken into a shield. And then he also does this cone punch. And if he hits them in the middle of the cone, like a really big cone, and if he hits them in the middle, it does true damage, equivalent to the amount of shield that he receives, I believe. So he basically does a bunch of damage. After taking a bunch of damage, he can get this big shield and do this massive punch. And then his ultimate is that he grabs the closest enemy champion, jumps in the air, and slams them into the ground, stunning them, I think, and damaging enemies, depending on how tanky the target is. So his thing is like, you know, picking up the front line and leaping into the enemy team and slamming them into the... So if that sounds fun for you, probably pretty good. So if you're interested in that kind of playstyle, I would say check him out. Yeah, I just think his, based off his kit alone, I would imagine him to be good, unless his numbers are really bad. But yeah, he's pretty straightforward and should be pretty good in mid, top, probably jungle as well. Maybe even support. So yeah, definitely give him a try, I'd say. Guild v Guild Season 2 is coming. Would you like to go on a new adventure? Honestly, Guild v Guild I thought was kind of fun. Overall, it was kind of, you know, fun playing with your guild and getting some points. So, you know, excited to see it make a return. Looks like it's going to Ionia this time. Obviously, the first one was in Piltover, so lots of Piltover stories and stuff. This time it'll be Ionia, so, you know, Aurelia versus Master Yi and this kind of stuff, you know, probably things like this. Lunar New Year map. It's not a proper celebration without some decorations, is it? We've adorned the bases of Summoner's Rift with festive lanterns and banners. And when your game starts, you'll even get to enjoy a firecracker show. This is really cool. I used to love when they did this on League of Legends PC. They don't really do it anymore, where they change the map. Like, they used to change it quite drastically. Like, during Halloween, there was a Halloween-themed League of Legends, you know, rift. And then, you know, one year, the Christmas one, they literally turned the whole map into, like, ice and snow, and it was really cool. But I think they said that nowadays, it costs too much resources to, like, get to do it. Obviously, this is much of a smaller scale than something like changing the entire map to snow. But it's still very cool. I love it when they do things like this. So this is really neat. Definitely a big fan. Voice chat. We're bringing back a test version of voice chat with your pre-made team. So this is starting in the Americas region. So if you play in the Americas, you should be getting voice chat straight away, or at least very quickly after the patch starts. And if you're not in the Americas, you have to wait a couple weeks. So they're just checking that it works 100%. They did put out a blog post talking about why they disabled it, like the stuff that was going wrong. But, you know, hopefully it'll be resolved now, and anybody who's looking forward to it can get back to it. Gifting changes. Gifting cap has been reduced, and then you now have to be 2 weeks before being friends. This is basically just because of fraudulent purchases. People, I guess, yeah, making multiple accounts to gift each other things. So for this, maybe get some of the bonuses and stuff like this. So you get additional rewards or something. I'm not really... Or it's like if you get your account stolen, somebody can, like, buy, you know, add themselves and then buy a bunch of stuff with your details, something you haven't saved, you know, this kind of stuff. So just basically combating stuff like that. Wild Pass. We wanted this Wild Pass to pack a punch and blow everyone away. The best way to do that would be some sort of heroic gesture, maybe a grand entrance. So yeah, new Hexplorer Wild Pass. It's actually the last in the Hexplorer line. I guess that was for like the last year's kind of Wild Pass. They said this is the last one. There will be a Hexplorer theme, and then they'll move on to a new theme. So I think that's pretty cool. I didn't know they were planning to do that so soon, but yeah, it's Hexplorer Galio in this pass. Looks okay, but obviously we've already got Gatekeeper, so I don't know, man. We've already got a pretty cool Galio skin. I'm not sure. Could have been, you know, Hexplorer Gragas. Could have had a cool Gragas skin. I'm just saying. Just saying. Still haven't got a good Gragas skin. Game's been out for 2 years. Just saying. New modes, Earth making a return. Also apparently has some Lunar New Year changes. Yeah, okay, so the cannon has a unique look as well. So it's a bit more festive Lunar New Year stuff for the Earth mode coming back. Skins coming. Firecracker, Jinx, Explorer, Galio, Raid. Wukong, this one's really cool. If you haven't seen the intro for it as well in Wild Rift, it looks really, really cool, like in the store. Warring Kingdoms, Garen, and Vi. I think Vi looks really good in this game. I don't think Warring Kingdoms Vi is that big a deal of PC. I never really see people play it, but the model looks really nice in Wild Rift, so could be one to pick up. And then these are the Lunar New Year skins, so will only be temporarily available. Firecracker, Diana, Set, Teemo, Tristana, Xin. Big fan of the Diana one. And yeah, I mean, the Tristana one looks really good. This is the Tristana one. I think the skins in general look very cool, but obviously, as a mid laner, more interested in the Diana one than the rest of them. I think it looks really cool. The animations look pretty swell as well. Definitely excited for those. Accessories coming. Got some daggers. These are probably the GVG rewards, I would say. Oh, look, it's a little old Galio. This is like the old Galio before we got reworked on PC. This is what it used to look like. So you have some new icons. Spooky Camille icon. I guess this is GVG stuff as well. So maybe this is the regular guild stuff. And these, this could just be a Lunar New Year event, to be honest. And this could be all the GVG Season 2 stuff. Including a Spooky Camille. I don't know why we have a Spooky Camille. New emotes coming. A little Malphite one. It's looking pretty kawaii. That's right, I said it. These are icons, I guess, and borders for the new skins. Loading screen borders. So these are borders you can buy. You can do it for project as well. Events coming. Another Name That Champion. If you guys remember the last one, it was Garen reading a book. That was kind of funny. I remember we had a lot of fun, like, trying to determine which ridiculous things it was. There was a big Twitter post people had, like, doing a lot of drawings and stuff of like champions in these ridiculous poses to match the silhouette. Yeah, this was actually the Garen. Now that I see it on this banner, this was the Garen that we had last time. We were reading a map, actually, I think, not a book, but yeah, it was funny. So yeah, it's coming back. Another Name That Champion coming. Lunar Banquet event coming on the 26th. This is with set release. And then champion changes. So Mundo, Batman of Zorn, has been let loose on the Rift, tearing through his opponents of the Baron lane left and right. But we still want Mundo to go where he pleases. He's had too resilient to poke and winning some fights that he shouldn't, so we're dialing back his madness. Base regen nerf. You know, it is a 25% nerf, so it is pretty substantial. And then also his health regen per level going down. That's all he's getting. But it is a little bit noticeable, definitely, with regards to his overall lane sustain. But I think he'll still be perfectly strong. Shouldn't feel too much. I think Mundo is really good right now in the Baron lane for sure. So you definitely, if you are playing him already, you should definitely keep playing him. I don't think this nerf will push him out really at all, but it will definitely make him feel a little bit weaker. Maybe in some scenarios where he takes a bad trade or he's forced to sit back, he'll get a little bit less passive regeneration in that regard. Ezreal's damage has been lacking a bit. He wanted to shift his way back into that Premier caster marksman spot, so we're giving him more damage on Mystic Shot, so just a 10% AD ratio increase. Pretty nice, I guess, for any Ezreal players. It will definitely be noticeable, 10% throughout the whole game is a lot of Mystic Shots, Ezreal throws a whole bunch, so it might be enough to actually make him to a reasonable tier again. I don't think he's too bad, it's just his, he needs like 2 items to really get going, and he's pretty bad before then, compared to other ADCs that at least have some agency at 1 item, right, Kai'Sa, even Vayne, Lucian, all these ADCs have a lot of agency even at 1 item, but even then, to be honest, the meta isn't really super revolving around those AD carries. They are playable, but obviously a lot of Varus, Ziggs, Orianna in the bottom lane right now, and Ezreal does kind of fit that meta a bit. So maybe with this buff, he'll be a little bit stronger, a little bit more picked in that regard, because a lot of teams, at least in competitive right now, are playing around having that, that safe ADC / mage bot lane. They could just kind of farm, even 1v2, or the support roams a lot. Wave clear very effectively, take over the mid lane position in the mid game, while, you have all these strong side laners like Zed and Fizz kind of getting to play at the side lane and not having to worry too much about wave clearing mid. So Ezreal does kind of fit that meta, so maybe this buff will make him a bit more played and competitive. Jax has been dominating the jungle in highly skilled games. Combat this with scaling his passive differently to slow down his clear speed, while giving him some extra health regeneration to help his solo laning. So the buffing his base health regen a bit. It's like the reverse Mundo, and then they're retooling his passive. Instead of increasing every level, it now has level breakpoints where it will increase. So he doesn't get stronger attack speed wise 1, 2, 3, 4 anymore. He gets stronger at 1, and he gets stronger at 5. I think overall it is the same numbers. So 13. I mean, obviously it doesn't scale to 15. So, if you do 13 times 0.6%, it would be 7.8. So he'd be 2.4 plus 7.8 would put him at 10.2. So it's a 0.3% nerf at level 13, and then at level 14, 15 is obviously, quite a larger nerf, 1%. So it'd be 1.1% and 1.9% per stack, which is actually quite substantial, I suppose. So definitely hitting his attack speed scaling overall by a fair amount. But yeah, it's basically just kind of limiting his growth curve throughout the game. So he's not getting stronger at every level. He's getting stronger at specific points. which overall, yeah, like they say, slows down his clear speed a bit. I definitely think Jack's jungle is very, very strong right now. Champion scales insanely, and unlike Baron lane Jax, you can't really slow him down too well. It's really hard to invade in this game unless you really have a massive compositional advantage. So Jax, in a lot of games, is just, you know, freely clearing jungle. Maybe he gets a Herald and trades it for Dragon. Then he uses the Herald to push a tower. Then he's strong enough to push another tower. And then he's got 10k gold where everyone else is like 7k and he just 1v9s the game. You know, I'm sure we've all been there. But yeah, this is basically just mitigating his ability to farm from the jungle position. And yeah, just as a result, he'll be slowed down a bit throughout the game. Actually, I did do 0.6. Yeah, I said 0.8, but it was I did correctly. But yeah, yeah. So basically, like I said, just limiting how often his attack speed curve spikes. But yeah, overall, I think this will feel pretty bad for top lane Jax as well. They did give him health regen, but I don't know if it will make him a particular staple. But well, it might. Well, no, we'll see. Kayle. Why we want Kayle to outscale. Anyway, that was a nice video. Thank you guys for watching. Why we want Kayle to outscale her opponents. She's still a bit too strong in the late game. Wanted to be a bit more vulnerable to burst later on, so we're bringing down her scaling durability as well as some of her damage. So losing 10 health per level, 150 health at level 15. And then losing a bit of base damage and a bit of scaling on both her passive and her third ability. I don't think Kayle is that good right now, but I you know, I've heard from my chat, you know, who are obviously all very low elo, that she's very strong in low elo still. So maybe this is more of an aim at that. Personally, I think Kayle's been pretty weak since the nerfs to the AD build, which was really, really good. Now you kind of have to go AP build. And it's not terrible, but it's not amazing either. It's just fine if you can get away with it and kind of scale and you have good ult targets, you know, if you get like Vi maybe, or like maybe even like maybe Diana, maybe Zed, like Fizz. But I mean, a lot of the times your ult is much longer than their ults. But yeah, in these kind of games, she can be playable, but she's not super good, I think. So a little bit weird to see a nerf, but like I said, probably just a bit too dominant in low elo. Misfortune is strutted over the top with recent buffs. We're pulling back on some of the power we gave her back when she was underperforming, so just losing some of the movement speed they gave her. On the second ability passive, again, don't think MF is super good. I think she's fine and hasn't been played in a very long time, so it was kind of nice to see her back a little bit, but, you know, I guess maybe the numbers are just too high. Morgana, we'll continue to monitor the Sinister Sister after some recent bug fixes. In the meantime, we're going to help speed up her jungle clears for players looking for a new AP option. They've bug fixed Dark Binding, where it wasn't getting affected by Tenacity. I think this was like a week and a half ago or something. This isn't this patch. But they're buffing Tormented Shadow to do more damage to monsters. So this could be cool. I think Jungle Morgana is kind of neat. It's a little bit weird, but yeah, it might be good. So cool to see them buffing it and maybe making it playable. Riven has been struggling ever except for the highest levels of play. Cautiously giving us some leeway so she's not exiled from the lane phase after a trade gone wrong. We've literally been Lee Sinned again. Riven's getting a buff to her health regen and her health regen per level. I guess this is the new -/+5 AD. That was like always their go-to change when they wanted to buff or nerf a champ. I guess now it's increase or lower their health regen, because they lowered Mundo's health regen and they buffed Riven's health regen and they buffed Jax's health regen. So now, if your champ is weak, expect some health regen. Tristana, it's coming. You're going to be regenning so much health. Tryndamere, despite recent nerfs, Tryndamere is still one of the most dominant junglers across all skill levels. Haven't seen it in my skill level, but I'll take their word for it. To reduce his clear speed and overall mobility, we're removing this cooldown reduction that Tryndamere gains towards spinning slash with landing critical strikes against monsters. Yeah, so this basically just kills Tryndamere jungle, I'd say for the most part, because he now farms infinitely slower and he has way less mobility because his third ability has a much higher cooldown. So yeah, this probably just kills it entirely. But I guess that's what they wanted, so it works. There's some ARAM changes here. I'm not really that interested. Earth changes. They actually are doing patches based off Earth. It's kind of cool. So some changes. Nice buff to Corky's package. Just some Earth changes. And then gameplay changes here. Items, Edge of Night. Edge of Night is a powerful item in situations where it should be strong, but it's also just a good early game item for many champions. We're increasing its total cost to require a little more farming. So basically, increasing the combined cost by 150. This will probably push out Edge of Night as a first item, much like what happened with Essence Reaver. Essence Reaver was basically just really strong. It cost like 3k. And then they increased the cost to 3150, and then suddenly Essence Reaver completely drops out of the method because you can't get it by Dragon. Most champions like to have a full item by Dragon. Obviously, a completed item spikes much harder than components for a lot of the time. If you want to go Edge of Night now, unless you're snowballing and you get some kills, you're probably not getting it by first Drake consistently, because normally you get about 3,000 gold, assuming the game plays out as normal. So yeah, I probably will be seeing the drop-off of like the Edge of Night rush. People will be going back to the Yumus, maybe to the Muramana on champs that could do it, you know. But yeah, basically, there has been a few players and a few champions rushing Edge of Night, and this will probably fall off a bit because, yeah, it's just much harder to afford for the first Drake. And if you want to get a bigger spike, you finish something like the Yumus. You go for like the Muramana or something like this. Essence Reaver. Essence Reaver been falling a bit flat. Most of the time, it's only slightly better than other options, even for the champions that should be highly invested in the stats and unique effects that it grants them. Gonna give it some extra power to make it a more compelling option in a wider variety of scenarios. Plus 5 AD is pretty nice. And then the mana restore per attack to 3% missing mana. Again, like the problem with Essence Reaver is it feels really weird to build it like second or third. You normally have other items that you want. The only thing I can think of is maybe like a kind of underexplored build where it's like IE into Essence Reaver into Pen on something like Lucian. But Muramon is like really good, and it's just, I don't know, it's hard to believe that Essence Reaver will be better. Especially because, you know, if you go Muramana as well, so say you want to go like Muramana IE Essence Reaver, you don't need the mana restoration at that point, right? And like they say, this is better options rather than going for the, so I'm not sure if this will really change much, but yeah, it is kind of sucky that the item doesn't really feel good to buy or have a good place to buy it right now. Maybe it needs a bit more of a unique identity past just like restoring mana and stuff, because it's not super relevant at Wild Rift as it is for most champs that would want to buy it. Hextech Mega Drive. Mega Drive's not offering as much cooldown reduction for enchanters as we'd like, so we're reducing the cooldown of the refund to allow more access to this mechanic. So yeah, instead of having a 5-second lockdown on healer shield, it's now 3 seconds. This will make it a bit better. Stuff like Janna, Nami. I already think Nami this time is pretty good. The main problem I think with this item still is just there's not many active items that you want to lower the cooldown of. For a champion like Rakan, this item's actually become pretty popular as a first item because you can go Protobelt into Hextech Mega Drive, and because Rakan shields and CCs so often, he actually ends up getting Protobelt like, you know, twice a fight, or he gets a Protobelt way faster than he normally would, and it's actually quite substantial. But for champions like Nami, it's like, what do you really, the only one that really sticks out I think is like Redemption, but even then, Redemption obviously doesn't stack with itself, even if it's your own Redemption. So your second Redemption will still be weaker on your allies. You could do like Locket, I guess, but normally Locket's only super effective in like the mid-late game. It's not super good early for supports because obviously it has level scaling nowadays. So yeah, the problem with Mega Drive I think is just that the active items don't exist to support it super effectively. I guess like Spooky Ghost maybe into Locket. That's become a build that's a bit more popular. Is like you start by buying Twin Shadows and then you change to Locket in the mid game for supports. I guess if you that sort of build or like a Janna or a Nami, this item's not that bad because you get more casts of Twin Shadows, and then when you do switch to the Locket, you will be getting effective value. But obviously your Locket also has kind of the same issue that Redemption has, where if you cast it too quickly, it's also weaker anyway. But I think still getting the second Locket is probably quite relevant, even if it's a bit weaker than the first one. So yeah, I can see that working for that kind of build, but I still think the item's a bit strange for that reason, just because the active items don't exist to make it super compelling, right? You don't really have those items on enchanters that feel really good, so therefore Mega Drive is a bit less of a wanted choice, I'd say. That's kind of the main problem. Rune Changes. Brutal has been dominating the domination tree. Rune offers one of the best early game benefits, though there's a lot of mid to late game power. Not sure I agree with this one, but yeah, looks like they're removing the bonus armor pen and magic pen from Brutal. I think this basically means almost nothing, but okay. I mean, Brutal is the easiest rune to use and the one that is the most obvious, but I don't think it's actually like super good on pretty much anybody. Yeah, it's just kind of like, if anything, it's like dominating the domination tree because it's just so, you can't go wrong picking Brutal, right? It's like, oh no, I have 7 more AD. Like it's not confusing. It's extremely straightforward. The other runes are a lot more, you know, they're isolated in their benefits, but in situations where they're better, they're much better than Brutal, I'd say. So I would have just buffed other runes. I don't know why they're nerfing Brutal when it isn't particularly good, I'd say. It's just like the easiest to pick. Compared to buffing things like Triumph, buffing things like Vampirism, buffing things like, I mean, they already nerfed Champion, I guess. You know, I think Champion's still fine. There's another red rune, I can't remember the name of. But yeah, you know, stuff like Vampirism and Triumph, I think is great. Like, I wish Triumph was much faster. If Triumph was way faster in how it healed you, I would actually pick Triumph way more often. I think the biggest problem with Triumph is just that it's so slow, and like, it takes forever to actually give you the impact, especially if you're moving away from where you killed someone, because the projectile has to travel all the way to the champion from the body killed, and it could just take ages. So I would have preferred to see buffs to other red runes, like what they did with green, where they kind of shuffled green around and they gave like specific green runes, specific identities. Feels like the red tree doesn't really have that. And nerfing Brutal just seems weird to me, because like I said, I don't think the rune is particularly good. It's just like, you can't go wrong picking it, right? It's not like, oh no, free stats. And yeah, I also don't really think this nerf is that big a deal, to be honest. I don't think 2% is almost ever relevant, but I guess very occasionally it might be. But overall, yeah, I'd just say, I would rather see them shuffle the rest of the tree around and make these kind of more specific choices stronger in the scenarios where they're strong, instead of just seeing them nerf Brutal for no reason, you know? It just doesn't really seem like it makes sense, especially with the idea that they have, where they're like, Brutal is too dominating, then buff the other one, you know, make the other ones better. I don't think it's Brutal is too strong, it's too easy. So that's my take on that. Jungle monsters no longer level up in combat, so you won't miss smite anymore, junglers. Copium. And yeah, extra bits, new solo login rewards for new players, tournament organizers added the ability to select the custom games at 0. This has already been in for a while. This is sick. I really like this one. It's really useful in scrims as well if you mess up the draft. And then added in the ability to hide timeline. That's 3.0. Yeah, like I said, you might not be blown away. It is a bit of a smaller patch. Can't believe Jace got away without getting nerfed, by the way. I mean, and Zed. I mean, Zed did get nerfed the previous patch. I would have liked to see him get nerfed again, but I kind of get it. But Jace? How is this guy not dominating the ladder, man? Jace is like the most broken champion I've ever seen. This guy is freaking crazy right now. I cannot believe his stats are low enough that he didn't get warranted on a nerf. But yeah, either way, that's patch 3.0. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I will see you guys on the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Appreciate you watching. Peace.